Where in the world is Mark Strong?
What is he doing? Do you know?
Indeed, yep. Linking on from, I found this the other day after we had our conversation
He'll be-
about
he'll
where
be-
in the world is Mark Strong.
He'll be making
So-
a film somewhere.
I'm putting the question to you as our first
As a-
insert
right, okay.
into today's podcast. Where in the world, currently filming, is Mark Strong?
Thailand.
No, he's in Grimsby.
Slightly different.
So he's come back from Mars and he's gone to Grimsby.
Oh yes, that's right.
So he's filming a film called Grimsby currently. Although, having looked at IMDb, apparently the filming is actually done in Essex and not Grimsby. A bit in Bournemouth and a bit in South Africa. So yeah, he's doing a film. It's I think the latest one to be written and acted in by Sacha Baron Cohen. So this will be following on from The Dictator a few years ago. So keep it in the pipeline. But that is Where in the World is Mark Strong this week. So anyway, how are you doing, Toby, on that little divergent intro?
Yes, fine. We've got some. We had our first stew review outing yesterday. Was it
Indeed.
yesterday?
Yesterday
Which
afternoon.
we'll talk about in a bit, I guess.
Indeed, yep. It's the best cinema date I've ever been on.
Yeah, we weren't at the back, holding hands.
No, Toby has a very specific seat he likes
Oh
to
yes,
sit in.
you did put up with my predilection for sitting right near the exit stroke entrance, so I thank you.
Fortunately, it wasn't too far to the side, so it was all right.
No.
But actually, we'll just say we did go to the cinema to watch Mad Max yesterday.
Indeed.
So after we've done a bit of our news, we will probably pass on to our thoughts on what we witnessed.
My ears have just about stopped ringing.
Cool.
Anyway.
So yeah, should we go into news anyway? So main thing that's been going on in the land of film in the last week was the start of the rather famous Cannes Film Festival, which I think it's the Coen brothers are doing the kind of main judging for this. Well, there's a panel of about 9 people, but the Joel and Ethan Coen are the 2 people who are sort of heading up the panel this year. There's a few. Well, Mad Max I think had its premiere at Cannes a few days ago, and there's a few other big films which we may get to in a second. But what's your thoughts?
Well, it reminded me that I did actually go as a young lad on holiday with the family. I did actually go to the Cannes Film Festival in 1979, I believe it was, when I remembered the main film, the exciting new film out was, which was not as a part of the to be judged canon of films, was Moonraker, which we mentioned the other day.
We have commented on a couple of occasions.
Yes. So
do you reckon that's where your love of Moonraker as the best James Bond film originally started from? Were there posters up everywhere? I mean, I don't know what Cannes like. You'll have to.
There was quite a buzz about that film because it was futuristic. There were products such as digital watches were just coming out, which were associated with that film. I believe Roger Moore has one. With the red.
Nice bit of product placement.
Which, I mean, this is quite some years ago, and that was quite a new thing.
Was it something all the kids wanted back in?
Yeah, I remember one of my friends getting one and being very
a
pleased.
Roger Moore product placement watch.
Yes, exactly. And it soon followed that's how the technology of watches.
All right. So what was the actual festival like? Because having never been to myself, and the only thing seeing is obviously the shots of news reports and so forth, which they're generally stood on red carpets. And I assume you don't just walk around Cannes, and it's not celebrities walking down red carpets in every street.
No, I mean we didn't actually. We weren't a film family, and I was too young to say I want to go and see Moonraker. But it was relaxed, quite jaunty, sunny. Films being shown all over the place.
Was it quite touristy? Did you feel, or I mean, was there a lot of media attention for Cannes back in the late 70s?
Not overly. No, it was quite sort of easy to walk around and very relaxed.
Okay, so anyway, should we get back onto this year's Cannes Film Festival rather than Cannes 1979? Sorry, and we did have a look down the list, and we've both picked out a film that we like the look of.
Yeah.
So do you want to go with your particular choice?
Yeah, the name appealed to me straight away for some reason. It's called the Lobster, and it sounds obscure, but actually it's less obscure than you might imagine. It's by a Greek writer and director, which is in itself interesting. But it's starring Colin Farrell and Rachel. Is it Weisz or Weiss?
Weiss. The one Weiss. Is that?
Yeah.
Is it that one?
I think it's the Z at the end. I don't know.
Is it? Okay, right.
And it's a future set tale in which citizens must choose a mate or be turned into animals, which is an intriguing kind of conceit. Really, it sounds a bit like, I'm thinking now, that film where everybody dies at 30 or 33. Oh, so I'm sorry.
Yeah, we'll get back to you on that one. Yeah, there's not too much umming and ahhing. So, do you think better than just a concept? Do you think it might be a?
Well, I think both
watch?
those actors are extremely good and worthy of attention.
Did you look to see if they've got a trailer knocking about for it?
I did, and I couldn't find one.
Okay, so
which is strange considering it can't be a cheaply budgeted film. I wouldn't have thought so.
Yeah. Well, I guess maybe keep an eye out. I mean, it might not have a release yet, perhaps. But yeah, maybe we'll keep an eye out for a trailer and then see if it moves on from there. And
yes, they might be being quite secretive, which is a nice aspect to, or a nice alternative to releasing a trailer, is actually to not have a trailer.
It could be very, very artsy.
You have to go in cold, not knowing what's going to happen.
Yeah, indeed. Okay, so I just mentioned my pick quickly, which when I was looking down, I was quite interested to see they're doing a film, an interpretation of The Little Prince, which is a 1943 novella written and illustrated by Antoine de Saint-Exupéry. I think that's how you pronounce his name. He was a French aviator. He only wrote this one book in his life. And I mean, the story, it's a children's story that also crosses over into, I think, it's something that the child can get a lot out of as just a children's work, but an adult can also get a lot out of, because it's, in many respects, sort of philosophical tale on the human condition, essentially.
From what you would, okay to interrupt, I hadn't heard about this story or this film before, and from what you were saying, it sounds extremely interesting. It's quite surreal, isn't it?
It is, yeah. Well, I don't want to go too much into the novel because obviously it's talking about the film, but yeah, I mean the novel itself, it's one of the biggest selling novels of all time. I think the guy himself was on I can't remember which note it was, but his face was on the banknotes. He's that sort of popular. Back when France used to use the franc, but yeah, I mean it's kind of a sort of philosophical, whimsical tale of a sort of alien prince who basically lands on Earth and basically looks at the kind of strange habits of the adult world and wonders why they've lost, their innocence and their, inquisitiveness as a child should have. But I mean, the big question is whether the film they're making, which has a really big name cast, they've got sort of Jeff Bridges, Rachel McAdams, Marion Cotillard, Ricky Gervais, and so forth, voicing this piece.
Is it live action?
It looks like it's majoritarily CGI with some stop motion as well, so it's going to probably be a pretty high budget film. But I'm just going to be very interested to see if they manage to make that translation from an incredibly, incredibly good book to actually trying to keep on message and retain the principles and that level of narrative that was found in the book and manage to put it into film. But yeah, we will find out. I guess its world premiere is on the 22nd of May, so it'll be this Friday. So there'll probably be a few reports coming out from Cannes towards the end of the week. So I'm going to be quite interested to read up on that and then probably maybe have a little bit of a report back on that next week as well. So yeah, with Cannes out the way, shall we move on to trailer news?
Trailer news.
Which, I have to say, you did give me a really big list of trailers yesterday.
I had a trailer frenzy a few days ago and went through all the latest ones that are upcoming. They're mainly out in June to July, I think, and one's not sure when it's coming out.
Indeed. Yep. So we're going to go through in chronological order.
Yeah. So the soonest to come out, and these are all obviously ones that from the trailer look interesting to me. There were probably the same again that I watched that I wasn't interested in at all. So this is a pick of my faves.
Okay. So you've got Spy on the 5th of June.
Spy with Melissa McCarthy, who's great fun, and it's also got the Statham and Jude Law.
Indeed.
And it's a parody on on the sort of James Bond genre, for want of a better expression, where Melissa McCarthy takes on the role as the hapless spy, and yeah, looks great fun. I
thought I agree. It did look like it's got potential to be a fairly fun comedy. I find Jason Statham's always terribly consistent. I mean, it's always basically the same character every film he does, but he does do it incredibly well.
He looks like he's hamming himself up.
And I think he'll do a good job. I did see Miranda Hart's in it, who is probably only relevant to UK viewers, but I don't really like
Big Lass.
Just she was in the comedy Miranda. Yeah, I find it unbelievably annoying. You know, sort of comedy from the 70s that should have been left there. Mostly, I find. Yes. So hopefully Statham will supersede Miranda Hart, and if that happens, then hopefully the film will be above average.
So number two. So this is the.
No, I've got one in between because the Despicable Me spin-off Minions, which we watched the trailer to just prior to starting recording here, which you were a little bit dubious about and had pretty much decided not to watch up until I showed it to you.
Yeah, it's not my cup of tea normally.
But having seen the trailer,
it was enormous fun. It looked like. It reminds me of the surrealism that you mentioned from the Little Prince, the film you mentioned. It sort of reminded me a bit of that, going around slightly historically, going around to adult figures and trying to get them to. What were they trying to do? Get them to be there.
They were becoming minions to evildoers throughout time at the start of the trailer.
As in the word of minion. Yes.
I mean, this looks like I think it looks like it's going to be a pretty good solid effort. It's out the 26th of June, and I've got a feeling. I mean, it's probably a bit early for it, but if you're looking down the list of potential animated film Oscars for next year, I think this has a good chance. It does look like it's going to be. They've put a lot of effort into it. I think it's going to be a really good script. I think it's going to be pretty funny throughout. But we shall see. We shall see. It's out fairly soon. Should we move on to the next one?
Next one. So the latest, best-looking Western to come up shortly, coming soon, is a film called Slow West with Michael Fassbender in, who's always
26th of June as well.
Who's always well worth a look, well worth regard of. Then we've got the latest zombie in the zombie genre.
This is quite an interesting one because we've got Schwarzenegger taking on almost his, if not his first serious, his first serious role where he doesn't end up blowing everything up.
Yeah, or saying "I'll be back," etc.
Well, we don't know that yet.
That's true.
Surely he's going to leave his, the zombified daughter or something. I'll be back. It's going to happen.
I'm a bit fed up with him just saying "I'll be back" in every blinking film he's in. Yeah, so a film called Maggie, and he's had particularly rave reviews about his performance, which is a nice thing to do towards the. I mean, he's always been full of charisma in whatever Schwarzenegger way, but
it's quite the departure, though. I mean, he's got a beard and everything. I mean, this is
the
new older Schwarzenegger.
Yeah, they're sort of getting towards the twilight of his career, or twilight of his sort of action career.
Yeah. Do you think that look works? That basically said, Schwarzenegger, we need you to look like a troubled, middle-aged older man, so grow a beard.
Did he have a beard?
Yeah, he had a bit of stubble. Wasn't a big beard.
But he looked impressive, I thought, as a character.
Yeah.
So that would be, like I say, of all this list, another one that I'd be interested in.
Okay, so we're moving on to the 24th of July now with True Story.
Yeah, particularly interesting with a couple of my more favourite actors who can switch between comedy and drama, as Jonah Hill and James Franco in a interesting conceit of a very shady character who gets in touch with a journalist, and you're not quite sure on the why and what he's done, and whether he's. I think there's an element there's a suspicion that he might have murdered somebody, and that's the only thing that comes out in the trailer that perhaps you didn't need to know, but otherwise it's quite intriguing. The trailer.
So it was a good solid trailer, kind of balancing out. Well, it seems to be a kind of a bit of a drama piece about one guy potentially manipulating another guy, and the other guy trying to work out if he's being manipulated or
that's it.
If the truth is coming out. And it did look like it has a potential to be a good, interesting film. Southpaw, next one on the list.
Yeah, Jake Gyllenhaal, which
another troubled character. It looks like he does like his sort of. Portrayal of the troubled.
It's a bit of a a bit of a revenge story, I believe. Yes, he gets into trouble. What's the word? He has some emotional problems, emotional upsets, which he tries to exorcise in the ring. I think that was probably the simplest way of putting it.
Yep.
And Jake Gyllenhaal is ever as good. I tried to watch most of Donnie Darko the other day to do with our later feature, and that was his first film. He looks sort of ridiculously young. He's about 15 or 16.
Yeah.
But, so he's grown up, and he does a lot of body work to change. For instance, to change
Nightcrawler. He was
got really gaunt, and then he's absolutely beefed up. He's Mr. Beefcake on this one. So.
Indeed. So should we move on to the next one,
Yep.
which is an interesting one actually. It's a mismatched buddy comedy, but this time it's got two women. There seems to be no not so. This is called Hot Pursuit. It's out the 31st July. Stars with Reese Witherspoon.
Yeah,
and Thingy Vega.
I'd like her, as I've mentioned a few times over the last few weeks, and she looks like she can do a bit of comedy as well.
Yeah. I mean, I was watching and thinking to myself, usually the mismatched buddy comedy, there's usually about 90% miss, 10% hit. The two female side dynamic, it's interesting. It probably isn't going to change that hit-miss ratio.
No,
but
they might have put the only 4 funny quips in the film in that
indeed,
trailer.
but I'd say, I think the angle's nice to see. They've gone with 2 women rather than 2 men. I don't think it's going to change the potential for it being a good film particularly. No. But it's it's just nice to see a bit of progression. Although I did notice that a lot of the objectification was still towards the two. Obviously when you get the male buddy comedies, a lot of the objectification is the men looking at the women in the buddy comedies like that. Whereas this one still seemed to turn it the other way around. We've got 2 women, so we're going to be looking at the objectification of the 2 women still as the main characters. But anyway, move on to the next one, which was Laser Team, yet to be announced its release date in the UK.
Yeah, this is in the sort of Galaxy Quest arena or genre that was mentioned recently, the comedy sci-fi. So, and it looked a lot of fun. This is sort of goofballs who have suddenly charged with the idea of defending the planet against some kind of alien invasion. That was the basic.
Yeah, well, it looked like they each had kind of one bit of weaponry from a full suit of armour. Seems to be the novel twist that one of them has the gun, one has the shield, and one has the helmet,
and they're sort of moaning about which one they've got, and then they try and.
Well, obviously they're going to have to try and work as a team after probably many hilarious failures of it not working out properly.
So that's it.
Well, we've got the last one, which is actually again 5th of June, so it's kind of outside the chronology of what we're doing, but we're just going to mention this one because it does link in with Mad Max that we're going to do in a second, because we actually saw this trailer just as we did the usual. We did under Toby's advice from 2 weeks ago. We went and had a beer and walked in about 20-25 minutes after the opening time. Still had to sit through about 15 minutes of trailers.
But we missed it
at that point. We did miss quite a bit of stuff, which was quite good. It was said a good piece of advice put to practice yesterday, and it does work.
Good.
Plus, we could book our seats, so we didn't have to worry about sitting through it, which was nice. But this was Insidious Chapter 3.
Interesting. I've not been aware, I have to admit, of the first 2 chapters or whatever they are labelled as, but I thought it was a cracking trailer. It made me jump.
It did work really well on the big screen as well. It's the kind of thing it does feel like on the smaller screen. If you want a film like that, which is going to be a combination of creepy stuff and a bit of the quiet bang sort of horror, stick it in a darkened room on a really big screen, and that's probably going to give you the biggest.
It was very unedited in a pleasing manner. It wasn't cut, jump. It was just one scene. I seem to remember, and I sort of leapt out of my seat at one point. But I did go back to watch it again on the small screen on the internet, and I found, as ever with a lot of these films, I found a different trailer which was cut, and was far less appealing, far less effective.
So watch out for the one that we saw. Do you know which one that was? Trailer 1, Trailer 2, Trailer 3, anything like that? Or?
I would imagine it's trailer 1, but
did the other one have the intro of like the girl sat in a room knocking on the wall?
No,
it was that's the good one then. It's the one with the girl on her phone knocking on the wall. The wall knocks back, and then she finds out the person she thinks is outside the wall isn't really there.
It
was a good solid trailer. Anyway, shall we now? 20 minutes in, move on to we'll abandon time, I think, now at this point, because maybe we'll hit the hour mark, who knows. Mad Max Fury Road. So yeah, we went to see this. We went for the 2D screening, which, to be honest, I'm very happy we went for the 2D screening. Too. I think my head would have exploded had it been a 3D screening. So basically, the principle of the film. Well, there's not a great deal of narrative to the film. Basically, Mad Max, Tom Hardy, ends up being captured, and then luckily ends up strapped to the front of a vehicle with some people chasing after Charlize Theron's character. Was it Imperia Furiosa? Yeah. Then he kind of luckily escapes, and then it's basically the last hour of the film is one kind of massive smashing, exploding, blowing up, head chopping, shooting, racing, engine revving, everything else, chase scene pretty much.
It was, as the trailers that we've discussed briefly in previous weeks suggested, it was, as I thought it would be, completely mental. Very, very noisy. Can I give a quick list of things?
If you want, go for it.
I thought Tom Hardy was outstandingly uncharismatic, but I do have a slight positive on that. I think that was deliberate by the director George Miller to emphasise the feminist aspect which comes out in the film, and so he's basically just this physical stunt man. Saying hardly anything, but having said that, I thought his voice is the character the characterisation of his voice, and if that was supposed to be an Australian accent, it was absolutely.
It wasn't dreadful. Anything. It was just mumbling. It was just a load of mumbling. Well, I mean, that's the thing. I mean, that's one of the things with the film is that although it's called Mad Max, it's not Mad Max. It's Charlize Theron, basically. You know, she is the main character in the film, and he's kind of just a sort of tag along who, happens to do a few bits and pieces around while she's trying to do something, basically.
And the other main male characters played by Nicholas Hoult,
who's about a boy, wasn't he?
Yeah, he started off in About a Boy.
10 years old, or even younger than that, maybe.
And
how he's changed.
How he's grown and got a little bit mental
and a bit white, very, very kind of painted white.
Oh yes,
and tattooed.
Yes, he plays
and bald.
A kind of tribe this basically city called the Citadel, and then they have the War Boys who. Stu explained this quite well because I didn't quite get it, but apparently they had a kind of health time bomb on them.
Oh well, that character did specifically, I think. Yeah. Anyway,
but that what makes them have that sacrificial element to them.
Yeah, I mean, I did find it quite interesting there. Yeah, there's a lot of talk of going to Valhalla, kind of like the indoctrinating of those who are going to die and all that. And they're talking about Valhalla, and it's like, well, it's interesting. Norse mythology has made it halfway around the world to Australia. But then maybe it's not really supposed to be in Australia. It's just a desolate world. Perhaps I don't really.
Like you say, it was the narrative was hugely avoided.
I mean, actually, what did you think? Because I was contemplating on this, and the question was it the case that there was a lot more narrative, and in the edit they just removed a load of it, or was it the case that Miller was like, we need about 30 seconds of narrative here, just give them the idea of what happened. We don't really want to explain it or go into any detail, just because we need more chases. We need more explosions.
I think George Miller was just likes doing the whole full-on action thing, and was possibly being over esoteric, a little bit like the later Matrix films, where you have to do your head in trying to work out stuff, but they leave lots of corners unturned and lanes that lead nowhere, and you'll never know, and you can just ponder it. People on the internet will just be pondering constantly. Oh, how did Theron lose half her arm? all this that is not explained, that sort of thing. I think that's what they're
well,
going
I
for.
think it's also the instantaneous. There's very little. I mean, as I was thinking about this, there's only two characters who get any character development in that film. That's Charlize Theron's character and Nicholas Holt's character. They're the only people.
Yeah.
I mean, even then, I felt that the development of those characters was more rushed than it should have been. I mean, there were throughout the film there were 6 or 7 characters who were on screen for great part of it, and 5 of them basically had no. Mad Max included had basically no story. It's just, oh yeah, here they are. They're just here because they're useful to they're useful to kind of getting in the way, or they're useful for when this thing blows up, or they'll be there to shoot someone when the time comes. But they had very little functional use, and it felt very, very weak on the character front in that sense.
Yeah, it reminded me of, and I've watched them reasonably recently, of particularly Mad Max, the original, and Mad Max 2. What a basic charismatic actor Mel Gibson is, and he doesn't do a lot. He doesn't have huge amounts of lines. There's a good deal of action in those films, but he stands out much more than Tom Hardy.
But do you think that's part of the script as well? Because in this case, Charlize Theron, Imperator Furiosa did. She did steal. That character did steal the show.
I think that was purposeful. I think that was.
But in Mad Max 1 and 2, was there a similar, essentially main character that Mel Gibson was having to deal with, or was it more bit part characters around him?
In Mad Max 1 is basically a vengeance story. There's quite a lot of early scenes with his wife, who's then killed by the baddie called Toe Cutter. And this is an interesting point, because the actor who played the original baddie in I think it's 1979, the first Mad Max, played the baddie in this one.
Oh, really? Same
a guy called Hugh Keys Byrne.
Oh, right.
You never see his face, and afterwards I did think, when I learnt this, I thought, oh, it's a shame you didn't see their face so you could relate it. But actually, the Toe Cutter baddie dies at the end of 1, so it wouldn't have made any sense to show his face.
You just thought he'd get the same guy in, because
yeah, but I was interesting. I didn't. I mean, the look was quite effective, but I didn't think his character was nearly as good as when he played. He played the Toe Cutter really enigmatically in the original film.
Yeah, but okay, going back to the Mel Gibson question, in the first or second one, and I mean you can include Beyond the Thunderdome as well if we want. I mean, was Mel Gibson competing against such a strong secondary character for screen space? Because I think that is the one thing. Although this one is a Mad Max film, he said he is kind of just a carrier along with the film more than anything else. And they've written such a strong character in Charlize Theron that when you have a guy who has so few lines, there's just no way he can really impact on the narrative or the film that much at all, really. In
the original film, it's the sergeant of the police station which he works at, who's quite an interesting foil, but who actually doesn't actually go on the road. So it's pretty much him on his own against this band of bikers, baddies, whatever you want to call them. And in 2, there's a little community which does start to bring in a little bit more feminist aspect, a bit like this 4th one has, which was quite effective. But there's no other main character except for the bad guy in the second one, who's called something like I can't remember.
Okay, but should we say something? Should we say something complimentary of it now? Right. I mean, I did think it was really well shot. I did think it was visually very, very strong. I did think the action sequences were really, really well done. The only problem was there was so much of them halfway through. Well, there's basically 3 really big chases in the film, and by the time I got about halfway through, it's pretty much the same chase each and every time. And by the time I was sort of pretty much kind of pacified to the action by about halfway through the second chase, and by that point I just wasn't. You've kind of seen it by that point. There wasn't enough, speeding up and slowing down to really, the impact of what he'd been doing had just been kind of removed by that point for me at least. But in terms of isolate it away from itself, it was incredibly well edited, very well shot, very well put together, and so forth. So I thought that was the good part of the film.
And except for the missing half an arm and couple of a dust storm, I think, a big huge dust storm. It's all there's no CGI. It's all actual stunts that you're seeing.
Which makes it all the more impressive, given what they were doing with so many vehicles crashing, blowing up, and everything else.
God, you can remember how manic the set must have been.
So I mean, what if I was to say to you then, Toby, that currently on IMDb, Mad Max has a rating of 8.9, which probably puts it as like one of the 20 best films of all time, pretty much. Do you think that's just people who've only gone to the cinema site? Well, I've paid money to see this, so I'm going to make it good in my head. Or do you think? I mean, I don't know. I think it's going to probably settle out a good point. Maybe 7.9, 7.5, something like that.
I mean, it's certainly effective. I was sort of reeling coming out of the cinema, but not necessarily in a good way. But people that want that cinematic rush feeling will have been very impressed by this.
Yeah,
so I can understand it getting big votes from people who just want that sort of sensory bashing.
It is good, yes. I mean, I think it said if you
sure
don't,
as hell did
well,
that.
yeah, said I mean that's it. So I think if you don't get tired, as I did, don't get tired of the action sequences, then it's probably a very, very good film. Well, you'd find it to be a very, very good film, but the problem is I did get a bit tired, and I was like, "Where's the story?" And that's where it kind of fell apart a bit for me.
It was a sign, and this is a common thing. If I go to the cinema, and even if film is doing some quite good things, if I start getting a sore backside, I know that
you're focusing on other things.
Well, when it's a good film, I don't get it. So it's a sort of cycle.
So basically, the Toby review scale is how sore was my arse when I came out the cinema.
Halfway through, it was like how soon did you get aching backside?
So
about halfway through.
I was
starting to think. Oh,
well, maybe we should use this as our review scale.
Yeah.
None of this 1 to 10, 1 to 100 nonsense. This is the kind of at what minute of the film did Toby start to get an aching backside?
Yeah.
So Mad Max has been officially given a rating of 50% in terms of Toby's survival rate.
I did quite like the mature female biker gang. That was quite a nice twist.
Yeah, it was good. I mean, the one thing that did annoy me was kind of it said about the second scene, you kind of knew where the bar was being set when Mad Max kind of comes out of his crash and sees like 4 or 5 very scantily clad women wearing white, hosing one another's down, and it's like, okay, the bar has been set here. It did feel a bit gratuitous, and there was a naked woman somewhere towards the end as well. It just feels like George Miller's like, I need to stick a naked. There'll be some teen boys watching. I better stick a naked woman in. That'll get a second watch from them. So they'll go.
Where was the one at the end?
Before they met. Well, I don't want to go into too much of the narrative, but she was up on that thing. When they arrived.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, and I was just like, what?
She was a lure or something. Yes,
but she doesn't have to be completely naked. It's
No.
utterly unnecessary and very gratuitous. But yeah, in terms of the main character and the sort of secondary side, that was good. I really struggled. He said it was sort of gratuitous teen audience, well, male teen audience specifically, which admittedly that is what the film's aimed at. I can't see there being too many women going, let's go and see Mad Max. It's going to be very male launcher, and it does feel gratuitous and added in just for the sake of he knows it's going to be a predominantly male audience.
That's a good point.
But yeah, okay. So shall we now finally move on to our featurette? Away from Mad Max, nothing to do with Mad Max, in fact. Which you thought of this the other day, so we've made a bit of a list of our favourite time travel related films.
Indeed.
And I believe there's a couple that you particularly we've got a big list which we'll go through, but you've got a couple that you particularly wanted to talk about.
Yeah, a couple of my, I would say, my favourites that I went back to watch. I cover those quickly. Frequency would probably be the top choice. A film from not many years ago, starring Dennis Quaid,
2000, I think it was,
and Jim Caviezel. I'm not sure how to pronounce his name. I generally like, as a little background, I quite like Dennis Quaid. He was in one of my favourite films, again from 1979, called Breaking Away.
So not the Mario Brothers then? Was that Dennis Quaid?
I
think he
managed
played
to miss
Bowser in the rather terrible Mario Brothers film.
Okay.
Anyway.
Well, perhaps he needed the money. And it's a very interesting story about a character played a character called John, played by Jim Caviezel, who's using a ham/CB radio, and then becomes in touch with his father, who's on the same ham radio.
Just by accident?
By sort of 20, 30 years previously.
Oh, right.
And it's lovely. They're both very strong characters, very well played. And I've watched it, including last week. I've watched it, I think, 3 times, and I really enjoy it. It's a nice story where there's intrigue, and they have to work out how to find a murderer.
Oh, right.
Between them, they do
over
that
the radio.
Yes, basically. And so it obviously takes.
Does it escape? I mean, obviously, if you like it, it must escape the point of novelty. But it sort of does sound. I mean, when they were discussing the nature of this storyline of sort of father and son team solving murders and mysteries over a ham radio.
Yeah, it's novel, isn't it? I mean,
but it does escape that into a more serious depth, should we say?
Serious enough to be certainly most enjoyable.
Okay.
I didn't have a problem with the slightly bizarre conceit. It all happens when there's during a period when there's lots of aurora borealis going on.
Oh, right, so you get the northern lights and all that sort of nice, colourful skies and
which
everything.
I'm not sure that's even possible in America. I thought it was all.
Well, it might be up towards Canada. I don't know what part of America it's in. I mean, you can in like Iceland and the top of Scandinavia. Yeah. So it's I think it's a northerly thing.
A technical point, but I didn't question it. And
didn't break the 4-4 for you at all.
No,
didn't jump the shark.
But I thought it was very good.
Okay.
Next one.
Back into 1946, is this?
Yeah, A Matter of Life and Death. Beautiful looking film with David Niven and Kim Hunter.
Mm-hmm. Better than Frequency? Or completely different.
Historically, film? Probably. I mean,
okay.
if you had to choose, yes, probably.
Okay, and
it's very classy.
Yeah. What's the time travel aspect in this one?
It's more subtle. The concept of this is that David Niven's character should die in a plane crash during the war. He's a war pilot, but the messenger from God fails to pick him up.
Oh, right.
And then he has proceeds to have a court case after he's fallen in love with the Kim Hunter character.
Okay.
And when the messenger comes down to try and coax him off,
which I'm not going.
He shuts down time, and so it's only David Niven's character that can see the messenger.
Okay.
And there's time being the fact that heaven has mucked up the death of the pilot, etc. Right. So it's a more subtle thing. It's not like hopped up time.
So he doesn't end up having a legal dispute with God, where God would have some pretty good lawyers.
He's not with God, but with a sort of famous American lawyer, or perhaps even no, I think he's a lawyer from past.
A lawyer,
from
right,
past,
okay,
so that's
okay, cool.
Everything.
So both of those good. Quite a famous trilogy here. Should we go on to that one?
Yes, of course.
1985, 1989, and 1990. Michael J. Fox, Christopher Lloyd. Obviously had his bit part role in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, and's gone for a slightly different character, shall we say, in the Back to the Future trilogy.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, for me at least, I remember being a kid and absolutely loving. Well, the first two especially. The third one was not quite as good, but still pretty decent. Any thoughts on this one?
I would just concur with that. I think it's thoroughly.
Are you a 1, 2, or 3 man?
I would stick with 1, and then it got a little bit.
2 gets a little bit out of hand with was it Biff, the character going back in time to forward money. In time to get the sort of sports results book, and then becoming a sort of millionaire. Does he marry his mum or something like that? Or there's something along those lines.
I can't
that goes
remember
on,
3 either. I'm trying to
It's
think.
It's the Wild West.
Oh yes. That was one of the films that was on when I worked at the cinema.
Oh, was it? Was that when you were doing your ice cream thing?
Yeah. That was all right. That was all right. Yeah.
Okay. Next we got on the list is a trilogy from around the same period of time, which is Bill and Ted's Their Excellent Adventure and also Their Bogus Journey, which was in 89 and 1991 respectively. So it's an early role for Keanu Reeves as I think was he Bill S. Preston Esquire, and then Alex Winter was was it Ted Theodore Logan. Just some good character names, I have to say. There are some very good character names.
Yeah.
And I mean, it does personify the sort of early 90s fashions and trends and sort of American high school really quite well, I found.
Yeah. Sort of, they exaggeration. There's a slight cliche of the way they talk, isn't there? That
it's very hammed up, kind of early 90s high school. I mean, I don't know how reflective of the reality of early 90s, late 80s, early 90s high school was, but it's a good sort of comic exaggeration at best.
And my favourite scene in
it was Bogus Journey was on with Death. That's what
playing various games with Death.
Battleships was a memorable one, and I think they played Twister with it as well.
It's one of the last ones.
Because the first ones where they just get all the historical figures to come back to do their sort of end of year history report or something like that. Yeah. Okay, next one, as you've already mentioned, Hot Tub Time Machine, relatively modern time travel film.
Yeah.
Which I remember you saying. Well, I remember your comments. You'd had your comments on Hot Tub Time Machine 2 a few weeks ago, which you managed about 15 minutes in or something like that.
Yeah, that had 15-minute bum ache.
I gather were you slightly more, should we say, not necessarily interested, but had a minor pleasantry with it.
I remember the first one being quite good fun and basically appealing, but I couldn't tell you exactly what happened without going back and watching it again.
Okay, next one. Actually, you've got a bit of a Terry Gilliam double here.
Yes.
So, in chronological order, 1981's Time Bandits.
Yeah.
With
Fab.
Yeah. Well, do you want to just go through roughly the principle, what's going on in the time travel side of things?
Yeah. Well, bizarrely, it hasn't got Warwick Davis in. He makes a comment about that in his show.
Had a full band of sort of dwarf actors.
All the famous actors, dwarf actors,
but not Warwick Davis,
who have found portals in time, and they somehow drag along this young boy character who becomes the main character, and is fantastically filmed, fantastic in these two different ways, fantastic looking and fantastic vision by Gilliam. But yeah, Corker got Sean Connery in there.
Yep. Sean Connery, John Cleese, and Michael Palin also make appearances. The old Monty Python connection.
Yeah. Where did they appear?
I think they're just sort of like historical type characters again that turn up. For what I remember, I can't remember who exactly, but
that's right.
One of them might be Napoleon or something like that. Or
no, they meet Napoleon, and he has lots of fun. But they do the whole crack about he likes to see them act, these dwarves act, because he's got this height issue and gets really cross with his other officers who might be suggesting that he's short or something.
Indeed.
Anyway,
okay, so the second Terry Gilliam one, which is probably my favourite Gilliam movie actually, is 12 Monkeys from 95, Bruce Willis and Brad Pitt, which I can't remember. Have you watched this one, Toby? Or you weren't that impressed when you watched it? Although
I have when it's came out, and I think you're better qualified to talk about it.
Okay.
I remember it being relatively sinister, although that's not.
It was fairly. Yeah, it did have a very kind of dark, sinister. It's a time crime kind of thing where Bruce Willis is in the future and he's sent back in time because this virus was released, and then he's following Brad Pitt, who he thinks was the guy responsible for it, and then it takes a few twists and turns, and then it's essentially him going back in time to try and sort out this crime as part of a punishment in the future. He has to go and do this, and Brad Pitt, there's a really good twist at the end.
Okay.
In an airport, but yeah.
Oh.
We'll go into that.
That's
I thought that was a really good twist. I loved it when I saw it. It's a good twist.
A good reminder.
Next one is all the Christmas Carol films. I was going to say a Muppet Christmas Carol, but Toby has issues.
With your Muppet fetish.
With the Muppet, yeah, you and your all old Scrooge.
Go for Scrooge, 1970. Take it from me.
But yeah, everyone obviously knows the time travel aspect of that. Ghosts of Christmas Past, Present, and Future. Midnight in Paris, 2011.
Oh yeah,
Woody Allen piece.
I meant to rewatch that, and I'm sorry that I didn't for my own enjoyment. It's one of Woody Allen's. I mean, Woody Allen churns out a film about once a year, and he doesn't always hit.
It's about 3 misses to every one hit.
Yeah,
probably.
and this was absolute hit.
What's the time travel involved?
A character who's can you hint? Can you?
It's Owen Wilson's
thank
character.
Thank you, cue me. Owen Wilson, who goes on holiday in Paris with his girlfriend, and he wanders off at midnight, and discovers that he's gone back in time into a bar with people like Dali and Hemingway and these famous literary and artistic figures, and it's very evocative, and he's also into nostalgia. I think he owns an old bookshop back in New York or wherever his place.
Yeah, a very fine film.
It's lovely, and when it stops, you're as sad as him, when it stops working.
Okay. On to the comedies, or a couple of comedies now. The old classic Austin Powers 2, The Spy Who Shagged Me from 1999. Basically,
Groovy, baby,
it's a good,
and all that.
So, yeah, it's basically a cryogenic. Well, it's kind of time travel. He's cryogenically frozen. Is basically the angle.
Right.
It's essentially just used as he travels a bit through time. It doesn't really. It's only just a plot device to basically say we'll put this guy from the 60s into the modern era, and then we can make some jokes about him not being in line with the times, basically. Yeah. But very good film.
And being
not
sort
necessarily
of misogynist and all that sort of thing.
Yeah, I mean there's some brilliant scenes and some brilliant lines. But yeah, I mean the time travel's more just a narrative tool rather than central to the plot. Galaxy Quest, which has probably the shortest bit of time travel.
Yeah, we've mentioned it before, but it has a 13-second time travel to uncoil a dastardly deed played by the baddie whose name I can't remember.
I don't know. He's got a good catchphrase, so far I remember.
What?
Actually, foreign language films. On to the next one. Run Lola Run, the German language film.
Yeah, I watched that when it came out, so that was a few years ago. But that's very effective. We were talking about walks the other day. And she's got this great run, this German lass who's trying desperately to take. I don't know how she actually operates.
Well, I think the setup is one like 3 alternate realities where different.
Yes, it's an alternate reality.
She needs to try and get $100,000 in like 20
to
or 100,000 Deutsche marks
boyfriend.
and then it's basically 3 different pathways she goes to try and replay, and then different things happening to different people, and they all sort of interlink.
So it's effectively time travel, but not literal. Usually,
I think something along those lines. But yeah, I remember watching that. Watched it in a German lesson when I was back at school, actually. Yeah. Anyway, we got a couple more to go. Quite quickly, then. Source Code 2011. Jake Gyllenhaal again turning up in this one.
Yeah, this is a good one. I think he's got something more like. Talking about 13 seconds, I think it might even be 13 minutes.
Okay.
That he has to replay on a train to discover a bomb and the person who laid that, who set the bomb.
Oh,
off.
Talking about that, Groundhog Day, about replaying days. I don't actually have it in my list, but of course, Groundhog Day.
Yeah. Cool.
Don't need to say too much more about that, but
we've talked about
brilliant film. Mentioned it before. And last one of the most ridiculous bits of time travel probably in film history. In the original Superman from 1978, where Christopher Reeve, was it Lois Lane, dies. I don't think we're spoiling much here.
No, so, it should be known by now.
The great, it's slightly jumping a shark, isn't it? He basically decides, she can't die, so I'm going to turn back time, and the way I'm going to do this is by flying around the world in
well,
the opposite direction so quickly it will turn it back on its axis.
Highly plausible.
And in the process of turning it back on its axis, time will reverse. Anyway, yeah, that was quite a fun bit of time travel of sorts. Anyway, so yeah, I think that pretty much concludes that mini feature of a list of good time travel related films.
Yeah.
Any additional material to add? We are actually going to hit the hour mark pretty much here because we've got a bit of an extra to add on at the end too.
Just one fairly trivial point. I watched this morning whilst waiting for you. I watched a Simon Pegg film, How to Lose Friends and Alienate People. Not my favourite Simon Pegg film. I have to say he's done better, but he's always very watchable. And I noticed that they've part of the acting set that he gets involved with, the main precocious female actress is goes on to star in a film called Teresa,
right.
As in Mother Teresa. So we were talking,
going back to our earlier biopics thing.
So it's a fictionalised film of that subject. I don't think it's been done in reality, but that just reminded me of it.
That's very interesting.
Yeah,
cool. So I think we're gonna finish off with a very special interview that I got hold of. In prospect of the forthcoming Star Wars franchise, Disney and so forth have given us exclusive access to Darth Vader being interviewed. So yeah, can you remember who it was who was interviewing Darth Vader? Was it an estranged relative of yours who got the exclusive?
Yes, it was. That's all I'll say. Yeah,
it was. Yeah. So we'll leave you with I think a world first. So this is sort of Darth.
Yeah, I don't think he said much at all, has he, Darth?
No, he hasn't. Not outside of the Star Wars films. No. But he's broken cover.
Yeah.
Just to try and help the Disney hype machine.
Yeah.
Just give his own opinions on what's going on with him at the moment.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll play you out with that, and until then, we will probably see you next week.
Good night and cheerio. Well, I'm here with Darth, and did you want a cup of tea?
No, I'm more of a coffee man.
Oh right, well, 2 sugars, wasn't it?
2 sweeteners.
Oh right, you've gone.
Yeah, I'm watching me weight.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Okay. So how's it going? How's it going, Darth?
Yeah, right. Went for a job interview.
Oh right.
Said they didn't like the helmet.
Right. Yeah.
Thought.
What about the?
Asked was I anxious? Thought my breathing was a bit heavy. That was a bummer. Disability. So.
What about the Death Star?
Do
you have anything to say about the Death Star?
They did look at my CV and they did say
you probably didn't.
That was quite a monolithic achievement on my CV towards the conquering of the universe through evil.
Yeah.
But on the whole, they said that might not be the sort of aspects they were looking to bring to the company.
No, I can imagine, because the whole Death Star thing is a bit of a downer for.
Well, yeah, I mean,
companies,
it's
What was the company you were going for?
Death. Well, my company was called Death Star Incorporated.
No, not your company. Their
destruction to all living things. But their company was called Hamster Rescue. I must have a word.
Have you got? I must have
a word with my recruitment consultants. I mean, really, they'll just send me on to anything, really.
Yeah. So, have you got a particular desire to rescue hamsters, or is that just was that just a random thing?
Only if it's in the aid to complete domination of the universe by complete evil.
By hamsters?
Well, I mean. I told them straight, look, I mean, I'm not sure if this is the job for me, but, maybe I can bring those skills into this company. We could try and train up the hamsters, make a little hamster army. Maybe they could do some real damage.
Oh, I'm getting a bit confused. I mean,
like what hamsters, the whole you know, world rule, universe rule. You know, what's going on? What's going on with you, Darth?
Well, like I say, since I lost my job at Death Star Incorporated, the recession was a hard time for everyone. Went into administration, the whole thing was gutted and pulled apart.
Yeah,
and, I've just been struggling to make ends meet. I've been living in a sort
Have you thought about rats?
Space travelling fighter jet, just sort of got all my belongings in there, all a shaver,
Oh, really?
all my clothes, I sleep.
Yeah,
at night.
personals. Yeah, personals. Yeah,
sort of.
yeah. I've been wondering about it.
Quite desperate, really.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. So where do you think you're going to go?
Well,
Ultimately,
I don't know. I think the Ewoks, they might have some job opportunities for me. Again, it probably wouldn't be. I might have to downscale from entire domination and evil rule over the whole universe.
what you want to become an Ewok?
To sort of being some sort of financial investor on the planet Ewok. But sort of with an evil sort of mindset.
You'll be evil.
Mindset, yeah. I probably could be quite evil. I mean,
So,
they're all a bit cuddly, aren't they? Though, sort of
Yeah,
being.
so
It's a bit too easy, really, being sort of holding evil dominion
dominating-
over sort of a
Dominating cuddly people.
race of teddy bears. It's sort of it's a little bit. It's like taking money from a teddy bear, really, isn't it? Really?
Yeah. So
Bit easy.
So beyond that, if it wasn't the Ewoks, where would you go? Where'd you go?
Well, I don't know really. Probably just to London.
Architect?
Architect, yeah. Well, I
Something like
suppose.
that?
I suppose so. We're not in the sort of. Yeah, maybe. Maybe I could do a bit of architecture.
Or just go on the dole?
Like I say, well, I could. I mean, neither of them fit with my past work history. I could go on the dole, I suppose. Yeah, for a bit, just while I figure it out. Sort of get some pens. Sort of red and black pens, because they're sort of quite evil colours, and
yeah.
I could sort of. I guess on my
red is black. Yeah,
60
red
quid.
is black. The new black. Yeah.
Yeah, 60 quid a week. I could probably afford quite a lot of sort of red and black pens and pads of paper. Draw up some sort of more plans for sort of evil domination, and I don't know, just really see, take
a new Death Star.
Yeah.
Take
my ideas to some sort of, to the right sort of people, and be like, hey, I was just passing by,
and
I
I
heard
saw
you lived
this
here.
Death Star, and I wanted to bring it to you. Is that what you said?
Kind of.
Is
Yeah,
that
just
something
I
like
was
that?
just in the area. I've got this sort of
round
I've got
vision.
over 2,000 drawings of sort of for conceptual evil on a level of the universe. Are you interested?
Mm.
Would you like to work with me on this? I don't have a lot of money.
Have you had any feedback on that?
Not yet. No. I mean, I need to sign up at the job centre first and get a bit of money so I can buy the pens and paper, because it's quite
It's quite pricey.
can be quite pricey. Yeah, if you don't got to shop around, haven't you, to to get the best deal.
Yeah. So, what do you reckon? What's the what are you hoping for? What's your vision? Your end of the rainbow?
I'd like to have another Death Star, to be honest. I mean, they are bloody good fun.
And the last one got blown up, didn't it?
Yeah, well, that was that tends to count against me in job interviews, actually. Yeah. I mean, obviously, I don't put that on my CV, but everyone's seen the films, haven't they? So they know it happened.
Yeah.
So that's a sort of quite a black mark against my name in terms of publicity. The entire population of Earth has seen, my failure in the job market. So it's quite difficult. Yeah.
Ah, dear me. So have you got a woman, Darth?
No, not really. There's the odd sort of goth chick who's into the sort of full leather outfit with cape and mask.
Right.
They tend to, sometimes I think they
Tend
just
to
don't
what,
care
yeah.
about me as a person. They just sort of see this sort of 6 foot sort of man in leather wearing a mask. It's like they don't know the real me. They just sort of,
that must be
they
tough.
just want to sort of tie me up and whip me, or
really?
or
Whip you?
vice versa. Really,
Oh, really?
They've never asked me to take the helmet off though, because I am ugly as bloody sin underneath. So that's a bit, it might be just as well, but
Oh God!
it'd be nice that
right.
someone could,
Yeah.
take the mask off and be like,
I love you.
I love you. Yeah,
Yeah.
Be nice,
That'd be nice.
wouldn't it,
That would be nice.
and not just sort
Yeah.
of flip me over onto my front again and carry on whipping my buttocks.
Okay, blimey. Well, with that, I think we should close the interview. It's been very nice to talk to you, Darth.
Well, the pleasure's been all mine. Please shout out to everyone if any possibilities for evil
another
global
woman?
domination of the universe,
Yeah,
or a woman come up.
Yeah.
My options are open. I'm quite desperate.
I'm the same, really. Yeah. Okay. Cool.
That's quite good.